Yeehaw! Great state of Texas checking in, says Barton. Hello, and I am in the great state of Texas as well. And everybody's saying hi, etc., etc. I'm not going to say hi to lots and lots of people. There was a guy called George, I think it was. I won't say his full name, but from time to time, I get people say, stop saying hi to people, and etc., etc. And I totally understand. I know that some people say, I talked too much at the beginning. One guy complained to our salespeople, and by the way, I do get feedback even when it's negative from our salespeople. And one guy said, the webinars are great. I'm sure Ian's a nice guy, but 30 minutes of introductions is too much. I went back to the video he was complaining about, and it was actually 6 minutes. 30 minutes was stretching it a bit, but I understand where you're coming from. Not everybody wants to have a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A sort of radio style presentation. Some people actually want it to be more of a lecture, and I get that. The content is here. He also said another one. I don't think it was him. It was another guy said when I was saying, subscribe to the channel, and you really should subscribe to YouTube if you're on the YouTube channel. Whether you're watching us live or on repeat, it's much better live. And he said, no, it's not, because he can't scroll through the boring bits, i.e. me talking. Okay, then watch it on record. Watch the replay. We do push all the replays down to the learn page on the welcome page of the learn column on the welcome page of Rad Studio, and you can always catch these videos always. I don't get any extra money if you like the videos. It's helpful if you do, and the reason that it's helpful is that what it does is it trains the YouTube algorithm to know that people that look like you, that appear to be of the same interests, would probably find this video interesting. If you love Delphi, and I assume you're here either because you want to learn about coding or because you do like Delphi, if you love it, it's very helpful to other Delphi coders if you click on subscribe and like, because then they'll hear about this as well. And the one thing that really bugs me is when people say things like, yeah, Delphi's dead and all the rest of it. And it actually, you have no idea. There are mission control for satellites and stuff like that. I can't say which agency it is because we're waiting for clearance for that, but there are mission control shooting rockets into the stratosphere and out into space, and you can pick from several agencies, or maybe they all use them, I don't know, but there are mission control things that are running Delphi. Train station announcements, airport announcements, the Swiss railway runs on Delphi. Delphi is absolutely everywhere, but it just doesn't go wrong. It's very, very solid. You know that if you're a fan of what we do, then you know that Delphi is very solid. Once you've written the app, you've debugged it and got rid of all the bits that you messed up on, or the AI messed up on. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then it'll keep going, and that's the thing, you know. And a lot of people saying things like, I think the greetings and the informal chat help break the them and us. That's exactly the whole point. You know, if you watch people like Scott Hanselman, who I've got a lot of respect for. Scott works for Microsoft. Scott's channel, the way he does things, I find quite inspirational, actually. My primary inspiration for what I do was, of course, the great David I, who is still around, by the way. I made it sound a bit like he wasn't there. But David I, very, very smart guy, was a little bit ill recently. He's on the mend. I keep in touch with him, but yeah. And Stephen says, are we pronouncing it Delphi instead of Delphi? Actually, officially, the company's official pronunciation is, say it whatever way works for you. I'm a European by birth. I'm an American citizen now. You can't see it, but just over out of the past the cowboy hat there is my US citizenship certificate. So I am technically an American, but I learned to say Delphi. Marcos Cantu is European as well, and he also says Delphi as well. And as Nigel says, the Greeks call it Delphi back in the day. We don't mind Delphi. You'll find Ben, our GM. He's an American, has an American accent, so he says Delphi. It's fine, whatever works for you. And there we go. Hello, Colin, and all the others, and the Mediterranean as well. Yeah, it's coming towards that great time of the year when in the northern hemisphere, not so good in the southern hemisphere for the Australians, but in the northern hemisphere it is summer, and that brings me nicely onto um, my little overlay that I've got here. If I just can grab it for a second. And that is this one. So we're going to start doing a webinar series now for all of June and July. We're thinking about doing a coding camp as well. It just depends if we can get the people to come and help present it. I can't do it all on my own, but that will probably be in August. But certainly for June, here's the rest of the webinars for June. So today we're going to talk about how to find, download, and run free local AI LLMs. Now, the reason this is a good topic is, first of all, I appreciate if you live in Mexico or the Philippines or Brazil or somewhere like that. A lot of people say, "Oh, use Claude Code, and you should use Claude Code Max." The reality is, to someone who is a Filipino or someone who is Polish, for example, or someone who is living in Mexico or Brazil, it's all very well for Americans who get correspondingly larger pay to say Claude Code Max is only X number of $100 a month. But if you live in the rest of the world, and I don't want this to be a fully American or European viewpoint, but if you live in the rest of the world, actually the prices for things like Claude or Cursor can be prohibitive. So today I'm going to show you how to, first of all, use some tools to size the kinds of large language models you can download and use on your hardware, and show you some tools that will actually allow you to work that out. And then I'll show you some of them in action and show you some cool things like how you can link them up so that you can even have them running on your laptop or your PC, and also have that LLM working across your network. So it's providing large language model or AI capabilities across your network, but also to your cell phone as well. So if you have a phone, I'm going to show you how you can actually make your phone have completely private intelligence, because that's another reason why people use local AI, is they don't want to have all of their source code being sent up to some place that they don't agree with. Last week, the European Parliament actually introduced some new rules where they abandoned the use of American created software entirely. They have a Microsoft Office competitor that is completely European and open source. Fine, I get it. I am an American. I'm proud to be an American, even though I'm also proud to be British. Politics aside, it is what it is. Whether you agree or disagree with the American politics, our only politics is tabs or spaces, and our only religion is Delphi. That's how I approach it. But the European Union are trying to sort of do away with American influence and deprioritize American technology. So if you are in Europe and you don't want to have an American large language model, for example, looking at your code, then this is what this webinar is going to be about today. Now, following on from that, Texas won a court battle last week, I think at the end of last week, where a law was introduced in Texas and then was immediately challenged in court that requires you to know the age range of the person using their device. So if you have an app, like a mobile app or something like that, the requirement is that you have to determine what the age range is. Now, there is an argument this is actually a bad idea, because it means that the apps can tell whether it's a child or not. But actually, that's not how it works. It is one where it comes back and says whether the content that you are showing you have to ask whether or not you're allowed to show it to an age restricted age group. So that webinar is going to talk about that API, because iOS and Android have both introduced ways of dealing with that. And I see that David I, by the way, is commenting in the comments as well. The news of my death has been greatly exaggerated. Very good, David. He's still recovering. I didn't say what type of illness he had, but he's mentioned there that it's a stroke. Uh, but luckily, he's still with us. David, you gave us the scare of your life. I talk to David regularly by email. He's a very good friend. Uh, and you know, I've said before publicly, he's the inspiration for what we do. And glad to see him around. And you know, long may it continue. Take it easy, David. I know your family are looking after you. You've mentioned before, out in the middle of the forest out there and having things. It's great stuff. Anyway, back to the webinar. So how to comply with those age restrictions, that's the webinar that we're going to talk about next week. There are some libraries you can use to call that. It is a legal requirement. I'm not trying to provide you with legal advice. What I'm trying to do is tell you what the kind of things you need to deal with, and go from there. After that, we're going to talk about the VCL versus the FireMonkey, and which one is better. Now, you know, this is going to start a fight because one of my MVPs I know is very much a FireMonkey guy, and I love FireMonkey too. However, Marco Cantu is definitely a VCL guy, and we often talk about this. I may even get him to come and give an opinion about VCL and why people should use it, but it's the two strengths of what you can do with Delphi and C++ Builder. FireMonkey works with C++ Builder. I know you can't do cross-platform with C++ Builder. We're working on that, but you can with Delphi and VCL and FireMonkey. Which one is better and why? And lots of love coming in for David I as well. Of course, you know, he's always around in these webinars as well. The guy just will not stop. He's retired or semi-retired, as he said, but he's still there. And then the following one at the end of June is actually going to be with another predecessor in the DevRel chain of command, shall we speak. It started off with David I. He kind of invented developer relations. And yes, in answer to that question, will I show how to get them to Kai? Yes, I'll show you it working with Kai in a moment. And sorry to hear you've been unwell. Be great to hear from you again. Yes, he's okay. He's still recovering, as he said, and he's using his phone quite a lot, I think, to do things rather than sit at the computer. But anyway, on the 30th of June, another previous DevRel guy is going to join me, and that is Jim McKeith. Jim McKeith is going to join me and talk about how to teach your AI to understand your code base. Now, this webinar at the end of June will apply to both local and cloud-based AI. Now, if you don't like AI, I am trying to make sure that we do keep some non-AI stuff in there. So 16th and 23rd will not really feature AI that much. In fact, maybe not at all. They're pure Delphi / C++ Builder stuff. But today and at the end of June, they're both AI focused. But Jim and I, and it may be just me if Jim can't make it because he's super busy, but the plan is to have Jim around to talk about this, how to teach your AI. If you can't make it, maybe I'll do something different that day. But, you know, if you're using AI, one of the things you really want it to do is to understand your code base and understand how your code works. Because, you know, I've always said to people, code is a very personal thing. And, you know, I think I used to be a professional poet, and we always used to say, if you read someone's poetry, you know the inside of their head, you know, because a good poet will surface some, you know, some quite personal things in some ways, even when they're talking about something like, you know, I don't know, forest or something. You can still really get a feeling for who that person is. If you read enough of someone's code, you also understand that person. And if that's important for you when you're working on someone else's code base, it's doubly important for the AI, because the AI only is able to regurgitate things that it knows about. It's not very creative, it's predictive, it's understanding, it's seen enough of Delphi code or whatever to be able to predict what comes next in a set of questions that you give it. It can come up with some answers based on probability. So if you give it your code base, it'll understand your code base and should, in theory, write code the way you want it to write it, and a few other things as well. So, inside the black box, how to teach your AI to understand your code base. That is a good thing to understand about. And we're not going to stop there. We've got some stuff for June, but I don't really have an idea yet of what I'm going to do for June. And so, really, if there's something you want me to do in terms of topics and stuff like that, I encourage you to actually come and email me. I do get a lot of email. After we released Kai, my life exploded for about a week, and I had to channel, Spock, and try and remain calm, because my word, I had hundreds and hundreds of emails. Now I do make sure that I invite you to email me. I mean that. And I get emails. Sometimes people are very upset about things, and I absolutely understand. Um, but I invite you, if you think I shouldn't talk on webinars, then email me. If you think I should, then email me as well. But also, more importantly, tell me what you want to see, because I have the resources of the entire Embarcadero company at my disposal. And in fact, I have the whole of Idera at my disposal. So if there's some particular subject you want me to talk about, then let me know. All the webinars, I will be talking less than I am today. Today, I'm just doing a little bit more because, first of all, David I is there, and everybody's saying hi to him. But also Frank, when I mentioned about some people saying they love FireMonkey, Frank is the one I had in mind. And Frank, by the way, is also a guy who uses a lot of AI in his business. He's a very, very good MVP. He's a good friend of mine as well. And we were going to do something together, and today would have been a good day. But actually, what I've got to show will take up all the time, really. But I will have Frank on, because Frank is another guy who, first of all, is a great speaker, but he's got some really quite incredible AI stuff. In fact, if you go to, did I do? No. Yes, if you scan this QR code, and Delphi Profi MCP, that doesn't really fit very well. Let me just edit that for a second so it looks a bit better. Hold on, Delphi Profi. There you go. If you scan that, you go to his page. He did say he's got to build his shop up. He hasn't got his shop ready, but Frank's got a load of MCP servers, which, if you're interested in AI and you know what they are, then it's great. If you don't know what MCP servers are, stick around, because we're going to talk about those shortly. VCL versus FireMonkey should be horses and courses. Hi from East Yorkshire, by the way. All right, help. My father, who is passed away now, was a Geordie. So my family, Anthony Danby. Oh, Anthony, I know you, of course. Yes. Yeah, so I know that area. And Peter Turtle, g'day. Right, mate. Hello to you. And also, Stuart's mentioning, when I was talking about, if you read someone's code, you understand them better. And it is a very personal thing, writing code. And as he says, when I look at code written by this, I can tell who wrote it just by looking at the style. Yeah, and it's the weird thing about code is that you would think there would be, because it's quite strict, the syntax and solving a problem. Non-programmers look at it and go, well, surely it's always the same, and actually it's not. It's there's more than one way to solve a problem, and that's the weirdest thing about it. Anyway, enough of that. Let us go back and talk about a couple of things. So, first of all, I hope you didn't miss it, and if you did, where have you been? But Kai, we released Kai, and Kai is Rad Studios agentic AI. So you get it via the Get It package manager, and I'll show you that in a moment, and install it, and it allows you to use AI in Rad Studio. It's we've had Smart Code Insight around for a while, and actually Interbase 15.1 was released, and IB Console came out, and IB Console has AI built into it as well. I think I can probably run IB Console. Yeah, I'll do it in a minute. But IB Console also includes some AI now. So if you're into Interbase, I thoroughly recommend getting the latest version of IB Console because it includes the capability of AI chat that allows you to ask questions about your data, but also ask it to generate some SQL queries and things like that as well. So if you're into Interbase and you want AI, you can do it. But more importantly, what I'm going to show you now will work with both Kai and also IB Console as well. So, you know, be happy. It's all good stuff. Right. So let me share my screen. Make sure I get the right one, which is screen. Oh, what do you do then? Go away. Okay, screen 2. And there I am. Okay, let me move this over. I think I can move this to the right somewhere. 1 second. And why? They took a capability away on these QR codes. I used to be able to move. Oh yeah, there you go. I can. I was going to say I used to be able to move them across. Now I can. I can still do it. So let's make that a bit bigger, like that. Okay, so I've got a new backdrop, as you can see. Woohoo! And C++ Builder, Delphi, Rad Studio, and Kai. There's a new Kai logo. And Kai works for Delphi and C++ Builder if you've not used it before. So let's pull up my what I'm going to talk about. So the AI models that people have, and I'll just hit F11 to make that bigger. Um, it's all very well if you have something like Claude, because if you go to Claude pricing, for example, and it should show up. Yeah, well, what do you do? What do you model look? Well, that's a good start. There you go. So the pricing for Claude has changed recently, and I think what's happening is that some of these AI providers have bitten off more than they can chew, and certainly Google Gemini seems to know what they're doing, but Copilot have stopped you upgrading at the moment, which is insane. So you can only get the free plan on Copilot. But I do recommend that you use Copilot for the completions. But here we've got the pricing that you get for Claude. Now, it's all very well. You can use your Pro account to use Claude, but you do find if you do it like heavily, you do tend to hit a few barriers and stuff like that. And that is that is frustrating when you're trying to get some work done. The thing's supposed to make you more productive and get more things done, and then it's a problem. Someone saying, is Kai still on 1.0? Yes, it is. However, we are about to produce a new update. I'm not sure when. I can't promise you when, but the reason it's distributed via Get It is so that we can update it regularly. That's what we're going to do. And here's an important question: why is your Mortal Kombat 2 machine playing Defender? Okay, the reason it's playing Defender is that on YouTube there are some restrictions on violence, and Mortal Kombat is actually used to be banned. It was considered graphic violence. But to be fair, in one of the demos, someone's head is ripped off and their spine is hanging down. So I think you can safely say that is quite graphic violence. So in order to avoid that, I either put Rampage on, which is a gorilla throwing things down, or Paperboy, which is another game that's on there, or a Defender. This is a proper console, and it can play up to I think 11 different games it's got loaded. So there you go. And here we go. So anyway, to go back to what we're talking about, it's expensive, to use some of these AIs. If you're in Poland, $100 is really, not good. Someone is telling me, mention Kai offer for new maintenance right studio. Oh, yes. Oh, I really must mention that as well. Okay, so the weird thing about our sale offer at the moment is, I think, let me just see if I can go to the main website. If you're thinking about ordering Kai, there is a 40% discount at the moment and an extra 5% off. Why does this matter? Let me just zoom this out a bit so you can see it a bit better. Because if you get an extra 10% on top, effectively Kai works out to be free on here. Now, don't quote me, but I think the price discount means that Kai doesn't really cost you anything, because we do charge extra for Kai. I know people don't like that, but it is good. But 25% off of enterprise for new licenses, I think. But go to our salespeople and talk to your salesperson about it, and they'll work something out with you. And 20% off professional. Now, I don't normally talk about prices and things like that, partly because these videos have a long life. Someone might be watching this in 2 years' time and say, well, when I go to the website, it's not right now. Today is June the 9th. And right now, June the 9th, 2026, this offer is happening at the moment. So if you're watching this later on, in a couple of months' time or something like that, the offer may have been changed. But you can go to the website, go to embarcadero.com, rad offer, and have a look. You literally, for a new license, you can get Kai effectively for free and get a whole bunch of money off. You actually end up getting 40% off. The weird thing is, if you add Kai, you get money off the whole order. It's nothing to do with me. I'm like the king or queen of England. I never have anything to do with the money, luckily. But there you go. But yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? So so that was the offer, and it's a good offer, and I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to educate you about what's available. There's a big difference. I'm not a salesperson. Technically, I probably am marketing, but that's not how I do things. Anyway, so it's all very well, as we mentioned about Claude being super expensive, but what about if you can't afford or don't want to pay for Claude or Cursor or any of the other systems? Or more importantly, what if you don't want your source code? And let me just pull that page up again. Let me just go back to Claude pricing. What about if you don't want the libraries? Hello. A bit weird that it doesn't on full view like that. It doesn't. Their site's a bit buggy, isn't it? You think it would just show this page? Oh, here it is. Oh, they've got some kind of JavaScript thing that plays it in. It's very interesting to point out, by the way, that they do train on your data unless you have an enterprise account. And so there's a thing here, I forget where it says it, but they basically say that they don't train on your data, but you have to have an enterprise plan. Now, I know that some of the people I know, like the MVPs, that's a big deal. Richard Hatherall, for example, who I'm sure you've seen before, talk about these AWS components, excellent. He pays for the enterprise plan because what he works on, he doesn't want that source code being trained on. He does a lot of healthcare stuff, as and things like that, and so he's paying extra for that. As an individual, when you sign up, it will say to you, by the way, we do train on your data. So anything you submit code-wise and anything that Claude is working on, it learns from you. Now, I could be wrong. Check the details because I make mistakes, and I know that when AI gives answers, it always says AI can make mistakes. Well, so can Ian because I'm not AI. I'm AI as in actual intelligence, as in a human being. So check those details. But as I said before, you're talking about $100, and that is for when you're using it by Claude itself. Now, once you start getting into enterprise plans, it is not cheap. In fact, it gets very expensive. And also, just recently, they changed their rules so that now you have an API plan. Now, I defy anybody to work out how much it's going to cost them for questions with Claude. But and I'm not trying to scare you because I want you to use whatever works for you. But I know of one person who used to have $100 a month plan, and it is now costing them $1,500 to do what they were doing before because of this API change, and they're moving away from that. Now, make your own choices. I'm not telling you who to go, who doesn't go. Um, with Wozniak says AI is actual intelligence. Wozniak is, yeah, he's I love Steve Wozniak, but he's a bit crazy, which is what makes him good. But yes, you start getting into extremely expensive once you start looking at API pricing and things like that, and that's a bit sad, really. But I totally understand it. I mean, if you're training these models, then it is super expensive. Now, what can you do to avoid all of that? What can you do to make sure your source code stays on your machine, that nothing that you ever process data wise or intelligence wise doesn't go anywhere but in your network under your control? Could be a legal requirement, for example. It could be a company requirement, or it could be just you don't want it to learn your stuff. And there are a lot of people that say that. Well, you can use things like Olama. Okay, now Olama is probably, I'm going to put the QR code up for it. Olama is probably the most well known, I'm going to say, of local large language models. And in fact, they're inference engines. And what can it do? Well, it can run all sorts of models and it can run it locally on your machine. Now, I have a very powerful Mac and I actually have Olama and another one loaded, which is, let me pull it up. Sorry about the flashing, and which is LM Studio. Now, LM Studio and Olama are the big ticket items in terms of local AI. And of the two, I've used both Olama and LM Studio. I personally prefer LM Studio. But it's up to you. Now, the reason it's saying download Windows is I'm actually sitting on a Windows machine at the moment, broadcasting to you. But it will also work on the Mac because I'm going to show you it working on the Mac, and I'm going to show you both of them working with Kai as well. Now, what models can you use? Well, that's where it starts to get interesting. Qwen 3.6, Gemma 4, and DeepSeek are like the big models at the moment. They're very powerful, and it starts to get a little bit complicated because there are different flavors of different models. Now, I personally find that Olama is not as fast as LM Studio, but that's my setup. I have a very unique setup and quite a powerful newish one. LM Studio for me is a lot quicker. The one thing I really like about LM Studio is it's got a thing called LM Link, and that allows you to have LM Studio sitting on other machines without the models loaded and without all the drain on the resources, linked back to another machine on your network, someone that's running at LM Studio. LM Studio also supports a thing called locally AI, which I'm going to show you working in a moment, which will allow you to run the models on your phone completely local, never goes to the cloud, never goes to anywhere else. Now, Olama has similar things, but I'm more familiar with LM Studio, which is why I'm talking about it. But what happens when you have local AI? Well, the problem you get is that these models are big. I mean, big, man. And they are gigabytes to download. And when they're running, they're taking up gigabytes of memory as well. And so, what you need is a tool to help you decide what your machine can actually run. Okay. And and by the way, there is another one that Jim McKeith favors. Those of you that know Jim McKeith, who used to be doing DevRel before me, and that is llama.cpp. Now, Jim says, and I can't confirm this because I've not run this, but Jim says that if you use llama.cpp, then it is less memory and therefore more usable than OLLAMA and LM Studio. However, there's more to set up with it. It's a library rather than anything else. But there are tools out there that are using it. Like I say, my preference is LM Studio, which is what I use. Okay, so great. It's all very well, but like I say, some of these models taking up massive amounts of memory. How do I decide which one's going to work on my hardware? Because you might not have a top of the range graphics card, you might not have massive gigabytes, terabytes, or whatever of disk space and memory, particularly RAM. And when it comes to video RAM, that's quite important. Well, there is a tool called come on, you want to dock LM Fit. Okay. And I can put the QR code up for that as well so that you get to it. Oh, yes, I did do one. There we go. LM Fit, that's the QR code in there. But for those of you that prefer to type, go to github.com/ALEXS Jones. So Alexis Jones and LLM Fit. And what does LLM Fit do? Well, it does something magic. I'm going to show it working in a moment. But what it does is runs this user interface here, and it will list all the publicly available large language models, and it will tell you which ones will fit on your machine, your hardware configuration, your graphics card, your memory, and what it's capable across. Someone says stumbled across local AI. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know quite what that means, but great. So yes, I would personally say that if you're going to use anything local in terms of AI, then I would use LLM Fit because it is a very good tool. It allowed me to select the best coding model that my machine would fit, hence the name, and also told me what other models would fit as well. Now it tells you things like how it's optimized, what quantization, which is the way of breaking up large language models so they fit into your memory a bit better, a bit like a zip file compression or a file system or something like that. But if you want to know what quantization is, then go and read about it because it's quite technical. It'll explain to you, but basically it's a way of making things fit in to the RAM. It'll also tell you how much RAM it estimates it will take for a particular model. So if you suddenly go, ooh, let me have Quen 3.6, you go into there and it tells you there's no way it's going to work. It will actually say, it will give you a kind of estimation and say borderline. When it says borderline, it basically means probably not going to work. I've tried a few on a Windows machine and it was a problem. Now, great. But I'm sure you've heard enough about that. Perhaps you'd like to see it running. Well, let's get it running. So I'm going to minimize this for a second, and I'm going to run my Mac. So this is my Mac machine. I'm just going to go up and full screen it for a second. I'm sharing using Google Remote Desktop. If you've never come across Google's Remote Desktop, it is a thing of beauty. Remote Desktop .google.com. It's as simple as that. I use it all the time. This is my Windows machine I'm broadcasting from, and I'm connected to my Mac. I've done it across networks, like a Brazilian hotel. I sat in a Brazilian hotel, networked back to my Windows machine. It's all completely secure. And remote desktop.google.com. I don't get any money for anything I recommend here, apart from Embarcadero stuff, which is why I wear my shirt. When I've got this shirt on, I'm representing Idea and Embarcadero, but anything else I have no connection with. This is just advice from me, and it's completely free. So here is LM Studio, okay? And if I click on here, you can see that at the moment I've got Qwen 3 Coder loaded. 30B means it's 30 billion parameters. Now, the higher that number, the better in inverted quotes that model is going to be, because it knows more. It's a bit like saying, how many people have you interviewed for a job position? The more you've interviewed, the more likely you are to get the right person. Yeah, it's like how many people came back in a survey about, I don't know, retirement funds or something like that. The more people you ask, the more statistics you've got. Well, the same with the parameters. The more parameters you've got, the more things it knows about and has ingested into it. Therefore, the more it's able to predict. However, you also need to worry about the quantization. The quantization is how fragmented that 30 billion parameters, or 70 billion, or whatever they are. And I know these are weird numbers. 70 billion, I mean, that's not a number I can even picture in my head, but 70 billion, that's quite common for a model. But you can see here that Sushi Coder, which actually Jim McKeith says is a very good and capable model, that's 1.7 billion parameters. Now, you'll see here on mine a little silver thing that says MLX. If you're lucky enough to have a Mac, and I do, my Mac is a beast. My Mac is a MacBook Pro M5 Pro chip. Now, there are better M5 Macs, for example, but M5 Pro chips have MLS cores in it. They are machine language cores. They're specifically for neural networks and stuff like that, which is what large language models are. If it says MLX next to it, it means that if you're a Mac user and you've got an MLS core, a processor that, Apple Silicon that supports this machine language thing, this model here will probably be up to twice as fast as one that just has got the GUF format. Now, GGUF or GGUF it's a bit like saying .dbf or .xls. It's just a file format for those language parameters, those 70 billion or 7.5 billion parameters, and it's just a file format. Now, Olama understands GUF, and so does LM Studio, and so do some of the others as well. And I'm going to talk about some other tools in a moment that actually are good replacements of Claude and things like that. But MLX, if it's got MLX and you've got a Mac and your cores support it, look for those, because those are the ones you want. Now, I've downloaded these ones, 23 gigabytes. Now, I've got a 2 terabyte hard drive in here, so it's not a problem. But you can very quickly use up this space if you download a lot of models. Like I say, Jim McKeith swears by Sushi Code. I personally prefer this. But someone, Landerson Gomez, who is actually probably the biggest hero in Brazil for Delphi, he says Gemma 412B. So that's, I don't think I've downloaded that one, but yeah, Gemma 412B, that's 12 billion parameters, and it's a Gemma 4 thing. Right, so great, that's how LM Studio works. Now, what can you do? Well, LM Studio, what it does is it broadcasts over this URL here. When you turn on the I am allowed to be connected on the network, then it will give that URL there. Now, if I go into here, and I'm slightly cheating because I have a little drop down here. Here is Rad Studio. It is running in a virtual machine. Okay, it's running in a Windows 11 ARM machine on my Mac, and as you can see, Kai is set up here. If I go into options, okay, and go to the chat, because this is where you can see it best. I'm going to say local model, and you remember I just showed you that URL in LM Studio. I put it in there, and then when I say test connection, it says okay. And when I click on here, what will happen is Kai is now showing me all the available models. So you remember I showed you earlier on in here that LM Studio has got all those models downloaded. Well, when I go into Kai, and I'll just go back to Kai again, all of those models are listed here. So Kai has gone to LM Studio and it's connected in, and there are the models. Now I'm going to use that one, which is the Quen 3 coder. Now for completions, okay, and actually Stuart asked a very good question. Are there LLMs that are biased towards a particular language, e.g. C++? Yes, there are. And in fact, I've just heard about one that is biased towards Delphi. I only heard about it this morning, so I don't have any links set up, but I am going to put them in a blog post, because I'm going to follow this webinar with a blog post. It's going to take me a day or two because I'm absolutely frantically busy at the moment with Kai being released. Every morning, when I wake up, my inbox is full of people asking about AI and Kai and all the rest of it. And yeah, and actually DF3YT says yes, there are models, and yes, that's absolutely the case. There are models that are biased towards C++. There's some towards C#, an obscure language which was invented by Microsoft. Joke. And some that are very Python orientated, and there are actually Delphi ones as well. Now, I've found most coding models are actually pretty good at Delphi. They're not as good as they are at HTML or CSS. And the reason is, as I said earlier on, the problem with Delphi is it's very good at being used everywhere, but no code is ever released. The mission control stuff that I talked about, where it's controlling, satellites, and I think I mentioned in a previous webinar about the European there was a European satellite or something like that that landed on a meteorite. I forget the name of it now. And that was all their mission control was controlled by Delphi. That is a different mission control, by the way. And nobody knew that. And I always say to people, you don't realize, but you've probably interacted with the Delphi program today and didn't even know it. That's how widespread it is. I can show you over and over again projects that are used by Delphi, but all of that source code was not public. Think about a web page. Every single web page out there, every bit of JavaScript is public, and everybody can see that I'm sorry, I'm just going to mute this thing that has just come up. Go away, stop talking. Sorry about that. Some people in the company can interrupt me with Teams messages. Yeah, every bit of HTML and CSS is public, so of course it's going to be good at it, because all the large language models did is scrape every single website they could get hold of. And in fact, we know that is still happening, because some of our websites, we had to put some rules in to stop the traffic, because it was so much traffic so often. It was insane. I mean, we get like 3 million hits a year anyway to our websites, but with the AI bots scraping it as well, it was 3 times that. Wasn't Skype originally written in Delphi? Yes, until very recent. In fact, we like to say the good version of Skype was written in Delphi. Yeah, and then they swapped to .NET, and that's when it all went horribly wrong. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the fact they were not using Delphi, but That's the fact. So anyway, back to what we're talking about here. So Kai, um, when it comes to the completions, you need to choose a model, and I'm going to show you how LLM Fit works in a moment. But you need to choose a model that is capable of uh, doing completions. Not all models can. Excuse me. And also, models have different capabilities. Large language models. Some of them are just chatbots, effectively. They're very good at giving you answers to text and stuff like that, but they're not coding specialty ones. Copilot, GitHub Copilot has a free tier, and in fact, I think it's still free is the only one you can pick at the moment. But the free tier gives you 2,000 completions per week, I think. So when you are in Kai and you're trying to get ghost text come up, I personally, at the moment, I would suggest using GitHub Copilot. I'm still looking at models. I'm going to find out which models are best to use locally for completions because some of them can. But I found GitHub Copilot to be actually be very, very good and fast. For the chat, as I said before, once you've set your local model up and said I make it accessible across the network, then you put the URL in here and the port number. Now, if we just go back temporarily to the AI, as I said before, if you go here, this is that port number, so 1234. Now, Olama, I'm not running it at the same time as LM Studio, but I do have it on my machine. It's not running at the moment, but Olama uses a different port. I think it's 11534 or something, but it'll tell you what it is. But that's all you need to do. Do that in there. There is a switch that says make it available across the network. As long as you say, yes, I want them to be able to have access to the network, then that's all you need to do, and then it will work inside your VM, and it'll work. And you might say, well, I'm skeptical here. Okay, all right, well, I get that. But if we go in here and I just hit F12, which should work. In fact, let's just do it in chat. I'm going to say a new local session. I will say create a class suitable to hold a employee record. And if I say read only, it will actually ask me what to do. I'm going to go and do that. And it should go off and ask this. Now, this is all live, so talk amongst yourselves. It is, at the moment, I'm running broadcasting. I'm remoted into my machine. I'm running a virtual machine, Windows inside a virtual machine on the Mac, and I have LM Studio running as well on the same machine. But meanwhile, it's going off and it's going to come back and say, oh, okay, yeah, I need to do this and blah, blah, blah. Is it okay if I use this? And I'm going to say yes. And it's going to say, right, okay, well, I've been given permission to do that. And it says, okay, is it okay if I do this? Yes, it is. And it's gone away and it's, and I could have said, by the way, full access, but I wanted to see you to see what it says. Okay, is it okay if I use this MCP tool? Yes, it is. And it goes off and so I can see it's already a T employee class defined in the employee pass file. There you go. And that is going to have a look at it and just say, I'm going to just see if I need to update this. And it's going to say, is it okay to do this? Yes, because again, I've got it set to read only. And it's updated it by including some things like birth dates and stuff like that, and age calculation. And now it's going to explain to me what that class is. Now, I want you to remember two things here. Anybody that says, oh, well, it's not as fast as Claude, I disagree. It is not super fast compared to Claude, but it is, a good 75% or more of the speed of Claude. and I am broadcasting to you, and I'm remoted in, and I'm running a full-size virtual machine complete with all the Windows on my Mac and running LM Studio on my Mac at the same time. And not only that, but I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight Mac desktops open. And if you're a Mac user, you'll understand what that means. So I'm running 8 different full-size desktops at the same time. But more importantly, this hasn't cost me a single cent, not one penny for it to. Now, this is an easy example, right? Okay, I get it. It is a simple example, but what you see here, right, is a completely ready to go class done. Now, in reality, what you would do is go away and you would probably get the chat to do much more much more complicated stuff. You would tell it to update code. You would tell it to take an existing, I don't know, Delphi 7 project and upgrade it to Delphi things. So Barton is asking me here, what is the total cost for you spent on the LM model and LM Studio? Barton, it's 100% open source and free. Zero. All of this has cost me absolutely nothing. Now, I do buy the PC, the Mac, but this will work on a Windows machine. If you've got a powerful enough Windows machine, a gaming PC, get one with a good graphics card. You can find them on sale. It doesn't have to be the very latest model, but at least something that is reasonably up to date. You could use that. You can accept it being slower and use a slightly less powerful machine. The two important things are graphics card and RAM. And my Mac has got both of those. My Mac is, as I said, an M5 Pro. If you want to Google that, but you know, Apple allow you to do monthly payments on their hardware. I suspect in September or October there are going to be some more releases of Apple stuff coming out that will probably include even more AI cores. I suspect that there's going to be some other machines that come out that are mini size PCs, like Mac mini size or something like that, that are going to be keyed towards this kind of model. I believe personally that the real use case in a year, you know, coming up across the next year, will all be local. So Jeb Shan J says, I have a small doubt. Is it possible to run local LLM in 10.4? Okay, so Kai, which is the tool that I'm using, is available via Get It. Okay, and the 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 Kai is only available for let me just search for it here. It's only available for 11 and 12. Okay, Brad Studio 11 and 12. If you use large language models, you don't have to have them integrated into Kai. There is, and you can see, you can just go into Get It Package Manager and download Kai that way. However, there is also a tool called Smart Code Insight. So Insight, which is here, and in there you can go and say, oh Llama or whatever, put in the right URL in here, right details, and you can use Smart Code Insight, which gives you a chat window. It's not as capable as Kai. Kai can do all sorts of things with your ID, but Smart Code Insight will work in your code as well. And Smart Code Insight allows you to do AI chat, allows you to find bugs. Smart Code Insight is in 11, 12, and 13. I'm being asked that question by one of the people on there. Kai is only in 12 or 13. But you can use these AI outside of RAD Studio if you want to. Again, completely free, nothing to do with us. It's open source. Now let's just briefly go back to talking about AI in general. And let me go to the terminal window. So what I can do is, whoops, I'm going to spell clear properly. So this is the terminal window in the Mac. Okay, and if I run LLM Fit, I've already downloaded this. Now you recall that I showed you. Let me just put it up. Can't put it up at the moment, but I showed you where LLM Fit. There you go. The QR code's on the screen. So I'm going to show you what LLM Fit does, because LLM Fit is a kind of missing piece of the puzzle. And Barton's saying, "What do you recommend for graphics card memory?" Watch this first, Barton, and then you'll see. Because what do I recommend? As much the best graphics card you can get. And if you're buying a second-hand PC or something like that, try and go for one that's got, you know, an NVIDIA card or something like that. Um, whilst I'm talking, I am using noise cancellation. If I clap my hand, you can't hear me clap my hands. The reason is I've AI noise cancellation. NVIDIA have been doing that for years. You use a thing called NVIDIA Broadcast, and you know, that's because I got a very good graphics card. But this machine that I'm talking on, the Windows machine, is 5 years old. So, you know, it doesn't need to be the very latest model, but it has got a good graphics card. So you could probably pick this kind of machine up secondhand for, you know, a very much reduced price. What kind of RAM is recommended for a computer running Windows? My Windows PC's got 16 gig. My Mac, I think, has got 48 gig. But I know it's a powerful machine. Marco Cantu, who I'm sure you all know, hates me because he doesn't hate me, but he's always grumbling because I've got a better Mac than he has. But I paid for it myself, so no, 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 no. But like I say, you know, Apple will let you do monthly payments. So let's run LLM Fit, which is the QR code on the screen, and let's actually go to the right place. And what this does is it opens a thing called a TUI, which is a text user interface. And what does it tell you? Well, it tells me all of the available models out there, which ones will fit on my computer. Now, you'll see at the top here, it says what I've got. So I've got an Apple M5 Pro CPU. It's got 18 cores, and it says I've got 48 gig of RAM. Now, the RAM in a Mac is, I forget what the term is. All of a sudden, my brain has gone missing, but it's consolidated so that all of the cores can access this in a specific way. It also supports Metal, which is just the way that the graphics are supported. Now, it's got a few bugs. It says Olama, no. Well, that's not true. I do have Olama on my machine. It also says my machine doesn't support MLX. Also not true. My machine does support MLX. And it says I don't have Olama.cpp. Also not true. But the reason it says is it's not in the path, which is fine. I don't care about that. It says I haven't got Docker running, and if you're unified, yes, thank you. Yes, that was the word I'm looking for. Yes, Macs have a unified RAM. Yeah. So let's just go back to that for a second. Close that off. So as you can see, it tells me which types of free, completely free, large language models I can access. Now, these are all available publicly, and I'll show you where to get them in a moment. And there's all sorts of libraries there. It also tells you, if you look at the screen there, who they're from. So maybe you don't trust some people, or maybe you trust everybody and don't care. I mean, you might not know who Jack Wrong is, so you're like, oh, I don't know whether I trust him, but you might trust Google. Then again, you might not trust Google, and you might say, well, actually, I'd rather anybody but Google and use something else. I don't know. I'm not making any assumptions there. Um, the other column that is very, very interesting, and it's quite important, is the use case. Okay. And the reason you care about that is you are wanting to have one like that coding. Okay. Now, as you can see on this one, it basically says that Cran 3 Coder Next is going to be marginal on my machine. And the reason is that it's going to use 85% of my RAM. I would say that's probably not a bad thing for it to say then, because it probably is just not a good idea. But you can filter by use case, and you can say multimodal and Hugging Face this and all that of it. But it is very, very useful. It is a bit weird because it's all command line stuff, but there are plenty of models out there. And my word, I mean, if you can't find a model that fits your machine and fits your parameters, then you're unlucky, because I would say that this has got absolutely everything you want in there. When I went through and picked some models, because I chose multiple models to test how good they were, I actually used this and picked like 5 or 6 models and downloaded them. Now, from here, you can see there's a line across the bottom that says I can filter it, I can choose the models, I can download it. Actually, D is pull it. That means take it down from wherever it's from, and then and go from there. Now, let's just go back to the top here. It says perfect fit. So at the moment, I've got the very first one highlighted. If I Quinn 3.635B, that's that one, yeah. If you hit enter, what it will do is give you some more information. Okay, now those are quite important. Because there's a couple of things you want to know about this, which Jim and I are going to talk about later in another webinar, and that is what quantization is used. Ideally, you want a lower quantization value if possible, but this is a bit of a dark art, and really the thing you should do is try what you can and see what works for you. The other thing as well is that you need to understand that it's like the line there, best quant is MLX 8-bit. So in other words, you need to make sure that you're picking a particular version that's got 8-bit quantization. I know that sounds like nonsense. Read up and learn about it and go from there, and you'll see what you get. You'll see, as it says there, the speed that you can expect. The baseline estimated speed is 36.8 tokens per second. But as Frank says here, he can get 131 tokens per second on an RTX 5090. Well, I've got a 40 something, I think, on this Windows machine, and I can get probably 50 something tokens per second. Now, what do you care about the tokens per second? Well, the tokens per second is how quickly it can answer you. But the more important thing as well is the context window. You're looking for something to have a nice big context window, because the context window is really, it's like saying how much can when you get a waitress come to your table in a restaurant, and let's say you've got some friends and you're having a birthday party. Some restaurants, the waitresses don't, or waiters don't, write down the order. They remember. I'm always impressed when I see people do that, but some restaurants do that, and they do that because they're able to fit it in their head somehow and not forget it. And it's an art, and probably they practice it and they get very good at it. But that's their context window. If you then suddenly stop them in the corridor and ask them something like, hey, what was that song we heard the other day, and distract them, they suddenly lose attention and they start thinking about that question that you've asked about the song, and they come back and go, oh no, I've forgotten what table 5 told me about they wanted. Most waiters and waitresses don't do that. They write stuff down. But that's what a context window is. How much can you hold in your head without suddenly losing attention or getting distracted and go, sorry, what was it you said? And that's the same thing for AI. The bigger the context window, the more things it can think about or get together and listen to when you give it some information. So when I asked that question in Rad Studio, and I'll just go back to it here, when I asked the question about at the beginning, create a class suitable to hold an employee record, that's a very small amount of context. But it then has to go through and not all AI does this, but it basically tells you what it's going to do. Okay, well, I'm going to create a class and I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to work that way and all the rest of it. And all of this is context as well. The reply is how much it can keep going. Now, for this Quen 3 coder that I've got quite a large context window set up. Some of them can have massive context windows, but some of them are limited to like 16,000 tokens. Some of them are 8,000 tokens. And you know, and actually, Eric here is saying, "Wow, so an AMD 9060 XT, not even a 9070, with 16 gig at 98 tokens per second is pretty good. The price difference between those cards is enormous. Don't forget to load Rock M for AMD." Yes. So I'm not going to give people specific advice because I'm really saying try it and see. What I want to do is give you somewhere to go to look at where you can get these models for free, but also look at things like LLM Fit and do it. And actually, Jim McKeith has a tool called Auto LLM, which will do even more than that and actually pick models for you. I found that a problem with my Mac for some reason, and my Mac's quite unusual, but not that unusual. And I think the LLM stuff gets a bit confused. But look at this, you know, I mean, key features of this class. It's explained to you what this class does. It says, "Hey, I created a class here. By the way, let me explain what I did to you." It blows me away. I have not been excited about coding so much for many years. I've been a developer for 42 years, I think, or maybe longer. Uh, and I've seen everything. I've said this before. I've seen, you know, IBM PC. I remember the IBM PC being introduced, and days before it, and that's why I got, you know, consoles behind me and stuff like that. You know, this is my era when I was a kid or a teenager, and I remember the internet coming up and being dial up, and then you know, AOL and all the rest of it. And I've not been this excited about coding for a long time. I love coding. I still code every day. I love the job. Anybody who's thinking about becoming a coder, it's a great job. But nowadays with AI, it's a little bit weird because you hear of people replacing coders completely with AI. I think really AI is just a high level language. Delphi is a high level language. You're not writing machine code. You're not having to worry about registers and stuff like that. Delphi does the hard work for you. The compiler deals with all that. But I think the AI is kind of on top of that, and you can, if you saw the Kai launch webinar, Ben, our GM, he's not a coder. He's technical. He's a very smart guy. Got a lot of respect for him, but he vibe coded a calculator using Kai. A calculator. Uh, God bless him. You know, that is amazing that a guy who does not know Delphi, and he is learning it, does not know Delphi, could do that with Kai. Great. Now there are other tools out there you can use as well, but we're here to talk about Kai, and we're here to talk about local models. So just to go back to the terminal window, that is LLM Fit. Isn't it cool? You know, I mean, there are all these models. Now, what's it talking about when it says to download them? Where's it getting them from? Yeah, I don't want AI to basically make it too easy for me to learn. I'd rather learn how to code without AI assistance. Yeah, I agree. Good luck to you. I mean, the thing the thing about AI is that whilst it is perfectly possible, and Frank Lauter will attest to this because he runs his business based on AI coding, the AI will do 99% of the job, except occasionally it will stop and go, "Oh, I got it completely wrong," or it'll lose context, or it'll make a boo-boo because large language models are not thinking. They're not creative. They are doing what you tell them to do, and so it can get problematic if you don't know how to code and you need to fix something. So I mean, as David I says, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, uh, was it Jensen Huang? I'm not sure how I pronounce his name, but anyway, Jensen. He said that English was a new programming language for AI. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Like I say, I see AI as another high-level language on top of a high-level language. But once the AI gets to a point where it makes a mistake, you do need to understand programming to help it fix that mistake. Even if you don't fix the code yourself, you still need to understand what the problem is to explain it clearly enough to the AI so the AI fixes it. You can say to the AI, "Oh, there's a mistake on that line, fix it," and it will try and work it out. But it still gets to the point sometimes where you do have to step in and go, "No, you've misunderstood me. I meant do this," and you need to have the knowledge there to actually direct it. So I think that this is true. What David says, that English is a new program language, but also you do need to have some technical ability in order, first of all, to tell it what to do correctly, because it's going to sit there like a lump of stone until you guide it. And secondly, once it's done it, you need to understand technically, is that the good solution? Because the AI is going to pick a solution that works. It might not, and what it thinks is the best. But if you put three coders in a room and ask them to work on something, three coders are going to go, "No, I don't agree with that bit of code," because that's how human nature works. Uh, as David says, Claude is definitely helping me with my stroke brain still handle complex software engineering tasks. Yes, yeah, that's good in a way. In a way, I mean that actually points towards the future, because I think that we're only really on the very very edge of what can be done with AI, and I'm very excited. And David's like me. David is fully up on AI. He never ever stops, and he may be semi-retired. I don't believe him for a second, but he may be semi-retired, and Mother Nature is trying to slow him down by giving him a stroke. But he's still on the cutting edge of everything that's going on, and has done a lot of stuff in AI already. And as Stuart says, you have to be very specific what tasks you give AI. Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's like anything. If you garbage in, garbage out, if you give it poor instructions, then it's probably going to give you a poor result, because it's synthesizing intelligence well, but it's not completely intelligent. It's very much not creative. If the question is too general, the answer will be yes, exactly. If you tell it you want a payment system, but you don't specify you want to take American Express, and it only picks Visa and MasterCard or something, then your problem is. So, okay, let's go back to excuse me, LLM Fit for a second. So as you can see, it's predicting lots of things. One of them, including this in there, is if you look here, how many tokens per second? Well, Unsloth, it says it can do Quen 3.5 on my machine. It's going to use like virtually nothing. It'll do 193 tokens per second, which is awesome, except it hasn't got that many parameters as well. It's only got 873 million. Now that may be okay for short answers and things like that, but usually the higher the number of parameters that it can cope with, then the better it's going to be in terms of answers. Speed is not always what you're looking for. It's like anything. Paintings, a doorway or something like that. You can do it fast or you can do it right, but you can't always do it fast and right. That takes some doing, and it's the same thing with AI. Picking a super fast model that can give you many tokens per second is good because the time taken is reduced, but don't you want it more accurate? And is it going to be as fast as Claude or Cursor or Gemini? No, probably not. But the more focus should be on, this is going to cost you zero. As long as you can find a model here with LLM Fit or models that work for you and download them. And as I said, you just press D to pull it and then point LLM fit to it. It will it will cost you nothing. And I can run this all day, every day. So I can go to sleep, wake up in the morning, having given it a whole bunch of tasks, and it will do it whilst I'm sleeping. And it will never rest. And then more importantly, it will not take one penny from my bank account because I like the money in my bank account, not in Anthropic or Google or anybody else's bank account. Right. So great stuff. That's interesting. But more importantly, um, let's go back to the AI and talk about it there. The Quen 3 coder. Now, just some of the things that you can ask it. My favorite test of any AI to see if it's any good is to ask it who the first king of England is. And the reason is that when you ask it a question, um, it doesn't always get it right. And so if I just say, I'm going to create a new chat and say to it, who, let's say, who invented Delphi? Delphi. Oh, no. It goes off and has a think about it, and it says, let me see. And and this is the super big model, by the way. So it's going to take a few seconds. I think it takes about 4 or 5 seconds to answer some of these questions. But once it's finished testing, if you're looking for my test on local models, I did a three-part blog. Yes, Frank, I am going to mention that as well. Frank did some good stuff. His blog is very interesting. I asked Claude to create a SQL database from a year for a very complex thing. I asked it to create the database and create the model document. Yes, once you get, why is it taking so long? Come on, computer. Oh, did I give it the wrong model? Oh, seems to be taking extraordinarily long. Did I? Yeah, I may have done something stupid here. Okay, so I don't know if that's going to come back with the answer, so I'm not going to bother with that. It should do it. Like I said, I'm doing multiple things on my machine. I have done it before. I asked it before who invented Delphi, and it came back immediately and said, "Oh, Anders Hallberg." You failed to send message prediction. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know that. I just cancelled you. It did come back and it did it, and it took 15 seconds to come up with the answer. It's taken longer, but I know it knows the answer. Now, let's talk about. And by the way, this is nothing to do with Kai. This is just the LM Studio. If you pick a smaller model, you're going to get faster answers. I think I might be taxing my machine doing what I'm doing. But you can pick up and say, oh, I can add some tools. Now, RAG version 1, what this allows you to do is get it to scan various documents on your computer and learn from them. So you can, for example, I'm not going to do it because it'll kill the broadcast, but it can go off and it can learn about my code base. And it can also drag in things like my coding standards. If I had a weird set coding standards where I don't know, indented everything by 3 spaces or something, unless it began with a capital Z or something, I could do that. I could tell it to do that, and it would obey my coding standards. Likewise, I might say to um, always use ink and deck instead of -1 and +1 in loops and not in loops, sorry, in statements where I'm incrementing or decrementing a value. I don't know. Always wrap everything in exceptions. It doesn't matter what it is. You can create documents, feed them to your large language model, and it will obey those as well. And you saw when I was creating the thing inside RAD Studio here, you remember that it went off and it said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to ask Ian for some permission." So it wanted to look through my projects and it asked, "Can I access the hard disk?" It doesn't just do that, and because I had it set to read only. Now, with Kai, you can say full access, and it wouldn't ask me. It would just go off and run those tools. Likewise, it wanted to say, oh, okay, let's see what PAS files he's already got, because maybe he's got a class already in existence that does what we want. And it did actually find one, and then it says, okay, well, I found this particular file called employee.pas. Let's check it and see if it's what we want. And if it isn't, and it asks, shall I update this one, because it's got a class in there called T employee. It does that. Now, all of that is tool use, and Kai does that by default. It understands, it won't do anything without your permission. But again, this depends on your large language model uh, capabilities, and really, there's all sorts of capabilities the model wants. There is another model, and I forget which one it is, where I can add files in, and some of them support vision. And I really like those models. And when you went into LLM Fit, it would show you in the vision what you can do is, for example, upload an image which might be a mock-up of a screen. And you can say to the model, create me a form that looks like this image and uses the color scheme from this image. So if we had, for example, something like this, we could say to it, pick all the colors you see in there and create a form that uses those colors. And because it's got vision in there, and this one doesn't, this model doesn't, but if it supports vision, then it will actually go, okay, I'll look at the image. It does it recognizes the image, and it can also go, oh, it's a dialogue, okay, and it's got text boxes, it's got labels in it, and the LLM will do all that for you. Not all models support that, and the ones that do, again, if you go to LLM Fit, and where did I put LLM Fit? Oh, hang on, sorry, it's this one. I'm using a weird new tool that I picked up for my Mac. Macs are awesome. You'll see the capabilities in there. It'll say, oh, I can do, vision, I can do X or Y, general purpose ones. Some of them, Quen 3.5, does it support vision? Yes, this one supports vision and tool use. So you know that in LLM, Olama or LM Studio, you can support vision and tool use. I think it's great. Now, the other thing that you need to know about, let me just pull up my web page, is a lot of these models are coming from a site called Hugging Face, and that is huggingface.co. Okay, let me just minimize that. Hugging Face, whoops, huggingface.co, not .com, .co.uk or anything like that, .co. And in there are a whole bunch of models. Okay, it's also got documentation about picking the right kind of models, but it will give you lists of models that are available and what they can do and which ones are the top 10 and ranking and all the rest of it. It is the kind of definitive site. Might be easier if you see it in light mode. Let's pick light mode. I think it'll change. Oh, you're not going to change? All right, I won't do that. I want to stick with the system. Hugging Face is just the place. It's kind of like the brokerage, I suppose, for models. But that's where you can get them from. You can go in and download those. It tells you which ones are free, which ones aren't. Isn't that weird? Like when I click on things, oh, there you go, it's working. You can also have a pro account that allows you to download more models and things like that. I'm trying to show you today what things you don't have to pay money for. Why their website? There you go. So here's other models. There are dozens and dozens. I mean, I don't know how many there are, but there you go. 15,000 plus models instantly. But you can download them from here. It'll tell you which ones are free, which ones aren't. But LLM Fit will do that. You can filter it by certain apps and things like that. oh, which ones work with LM Studio, which ones work with Olama, and all the rest of it. I believe my opinion is that if you have got a machine that's capable of doing it, and it doesn't have to be the machine you're using, put it on the network somewhere. I would recommend having the AI running on one machine and you using another machine for coding. I think local models are the way to go. I honestly believe that there is a compromise. You know, Claude is outstanding. Anthropic really have nailed it. Cursor outstanding, really great. But you know, if you are living not in the United States or not in Europe, in a rich country like Germany, I know plenty of Germans say, "Well, I'm not rich now," but actually, in comparison to many countries, you are. Um, then you know, you really want to do things differently. So let me just minimize this and let me show you something else. So let's go here for a second. And we talked about LLM fit. Let me just minimize this. Do it from here. Can I do this? Yeah. I want to show you something else, and I risk causing a problem here because I'm going to go on my Mac. I'm going to show you my iPhone. And it says, oh, it's locked at the moment. So let me just, one of the great things about the iPhone is doing this, connecting the iPhone. And let us run an AI tool. Oops. And I'm going to run a thing called locally.ai. Okay. Now, what this does is you'll notice it says in here Quen3 Coder 30B. And it says device linked. Now, my Mac is called Vulkan, okay? Because why not? I've got a Vulkan standing behind me. Of course, my Mac is called a Vulkan. My other machine's called Valhalla. V's are in. I'm going to run out of V's if I get too many machines. But what locally does is it allows you to go in and connect to your local LLM on your phone as if it was connected. So if I just click on here, here's an example of a conversation that I had automatically across the internet, by the way, completely secure on my phone. And it created a class that is suitable for holding a date time. So let's have a new chat. Let's say a new one. And let's say a Delphi class suitable for holding a user for no let's for suitable for holding user details. Now again, this is my iPhone and it's going to go off and it's going to talk to LM Studio remotely, and it is going to ask that question of the LLM. And again, remember that my machine is running an awful lot at the moment, but it takes so many seconds. I'm hoping that maybe I killed my LM Studio because it normally is quicker than this. Let's sit around and this is what you get for doing things live, Ian. But I thought it would be more interesting. Whilst we're talking, yeah, let's ban that person. Well, good. You are gone. This is the age-old long question, rent. But yeah, I think I've broken my LM Studio, haven't I? Because it should have answered by now. What have I done to you? Oh no, here it is. So it's created on my phone. I don't know why it took so long because normally it takes like 4 or 5 seconds. I've been testing it all morning. but you can see it's going away and creating a class. Now you might say, "Oh, well, it's scrolling past it. It's looking a bit weird." Now, why would you do this on your phone? I don't know, but don't forget that your LM Studio's got access to your local machine, so you can get it to create things on there locally. Now, what will happen is, as I scroll back up, you'll notice that it also does syntax highlighting. Okay, and it does a pretty good job of it. But there is relatively complex class suitable for holding a user's details. It's got all the getters and setters that you'd want. All right, well, it took what, 10, 15 seconds? How quickly could you create that class by hand? Probably not as quick as 15 seconds. But more importantly, it's probably accurate. Now, I could also say, and by the way, it explains it as well and tells you what it can do. More importantly, I could have said to it and create some unit tests and mocks to support that class. I gave it a very simple answer. This is directly on my iPhone, and you can see here, there's the battery symbol because it is plugged in to keep it charged, and the Wi-Fi symbol because it's on my Wi-Fi network, and what I think that's my phone provider signal, and it is 1:37 in the afternoon for me. And there's the model. It is across the network for free. Now, the QR code for that, I think I stored this. No, I didn't. Okay, it's called Locally, is the app name. Let me just see if I can find it because I did actually store this on a web page. Yeah, locally.ai. Locally.app is the name of the site. Locally. Install it, and you can run it, on your phone. You could literally be sitting in the park next to a waterfall, like I do, and you could be creating code and telling your AI what to do and getting it to report you back. Now that's coding. You could be using it for something else. Completely private, completely local, completely free, full powered AI. Because don't forget, I've already shown you where to get every kind of model you could ever want. Some that specialize in vision, some that specialize in creating documents. If you were going to create some documentation, you could tell it to use a tool to look at your code base and then create your documentation. So whilst you're sitting there somewhere else on a train or a plane or bored, in traffic or whatever, you can do it on your phone and it's 100% private, not sending that code up to anywhere. Embarcadero, by the way, Kai does not process your code in any way. We do not ever see your code or anything like that. We obviously protect Kai from being pirated, so we do know when people are using it and things like that, but we do not know your code, and we would never do that. That's not how we do things. Your code is your code. It's private, and it's something that is important. But completely free. This app is absolutely 100% free as well. Locally.ai. So I really like that. And I've shown you LM Studio, and I've shown you all the things. Great stuff. I personally, I think that with these local LLMs, there isn't a lot you can do. Now, the other thing that we talked about were tools, and also the other thing that Kai can do, which is go back to Kai for a second, is that if you go into the setup of Kai, choose options. I could have done it from the but you see there's an option there for MCP servers. Okay, so MCP servers allow you to kind of enhance your AI and take it a bit further. And so here's an example of some of the kind of MCP servers. So this is DevArt, who I'm very fond of. TMS have got MCP servers coming out of your ears, tmssoftware.com, but DevArt as well. And this AI assistant really bugs me. But their MCP servers allow you to connect to all sorts of stuff, including Interbase and Firebird, Access, Salesforce, I think it supports them. You name it, it can do it. There, oh, here you go. Here's all the things there. SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, SQL. So your local AI and your own MCP stuff. This can DevArt can allow you to interact with those. So Dynamics, QuickBooks Online, and create the connect to the MCP servers of those and make the AI capable of doing that. Great stuff. But more importantly, what about this? Well, um, Frank, who is in the chat, delphiprofi.de, and in fact, I think I did a QR code for him. Yes, I did. Scan that and go to here, and MCP7 AI agents in the terminal. He says he supports Codex, Claude, Augie, which is augment code, which is very popular among certain MVPs, by the way, Gemini, and so it allows you to have an MCP server that connects to there, PAS indexer, Word MCP, Outlook, Jira, everything. If you don't know what everything is, it is my favorite application of not I'm not going to say all time, but certainly most times. So let me just run it for a second. If you've never seen an everything before, then you really should know about everything. If I want to search for everything that begins with I don't think we've got anything called dead, but there you go, dead. Instantly finds every single file on actually all my drives, because I've told it to search my drive D as well. Everything, it goes off and finds it immediately. And it's from Void Tools. Go there and it's completely free. It's everything that no pun intended. Everything that Explorer should have been. But he's got an MCP. Frank has got an MCP server that talks to everything. Table, it does Markdown, I said Blogger, you name it. Got lots on it. And Frank is going to come back at some point, and he's going to be talking about his AI use, because Frank is very, very heavy AI user and does some very cool things with it as well. So there you go. But MCP servers, Kai can do all of that. You name it, we can do it. Right, so let's do this and this for a second, and I think we will stop sharing and go back to this screen. So what I've tried to show you here is, I know there are a lot of developers out there who do not like AI, and I understand why. There are two very well-respected MVPs. I'm not going to say their name. I'll let them call it out, but both of them are absolutely dead set against AI. Both of them are people that I 100% respect, and I respect their opinion. I totally get where they're coming from, and they believe that AI doesn't produce craftsmanship in software engineering, and I would understand that, because those two people I've got in mind, I would say, are probably the most craftsman-like or craftsperson-like when it comes to software engineering. They really should be described as software engineers and not software developers or programmers. For the longest time in my career, if you wrote computer programs, you were a computer programmer. My passport, my British passport, which has been expired for years, actually says occupation computer programmer. Nowadays, we've moved towards software developer, which sounds like you're dipping photographs in something and out comes software. And I think we've moved towards software engineer as the job title. Maybe once AI, and I think AI will become the norm, once AI is completely integrated itself into the software engineering process, and I think that we may review our job titles again and not necessarily be called software engineers, but really AI is just another language. And as David said, I think it was David said earlier on that Jensen Huang from NVIDIA said that English is the new um, programming language. I think he's not wrong, and I'm an old coder and I'm okay with it. I think that using AI in the right way will speed things up for some people. And some people say, "I'll never use AI," and I absolutely respect that position, and they're okay with that as well. But I think that what you've seen with Kai and what you've seen with local large language models, bearing in mind I'm putting my machine under extreme stress uh, at the same time as using the large language model, I could have set it running there without having all the broadcast stuff on top of it, and it would create um, anything I wanted it to create for free. Is it as good as Claude? No. I mean, they're training models that are many, many more times more powerful, and you pay for what you get. So if you're prepared to pay, you know, quite large amounts of money to Anthropic or Google or whoever, of course, I totally understand it, but it makes me nervous because a lot of the plans from people like Anthropic are moving towards API token use, like the new currency is AI tokens. It is not uncommon to see people saying, "I've reached my token limit," and then they can't do anything with AI. Can you imagine, having a hammer? You can only hit a nail so many times, a nail so many times before you must stop using that hammer, and you've got to sit back and wait. That's what it is, and that's the insanity of AI token limits. It's an artificial limit because the provider cannot provide enough capacity for you to do anything you want. With a local large language model, there is no limit on what you can do. You can have 10 machines running these local LLMs, train them on your code base and never have to worry about anybody stealing it. Yes, it might cost you some hardware, but there's a one-off cost. My Mac here is going to be good for a few years, probably. Um, it's expensive, but if you multiply how much I would be paying $100 a month or more to Anthropic or whoever, multiply that by 12 months, and the fact that I never will run out of tokens, as a budgetary thing, only the capacity of the context window and all the rest of it, and actually the couple of $1,000 cost of the Mac is, I think it's worthwhile. I don't know about you, but I think it's absolutely great to not have to worry about it. Someone's saying, "Refresh the page, please." What does they mean by that? Aren't tokens a way of making profit? Well, it certainly seems that way. It yeah, for coding, tokens are the currency, and that's how they make their profit. I said this last year in December. I had a long webinar where I said I believe that this year, 2026, is going to be the time of reckoning for these providers because the amount of money they were putting into it was astronomical, but the valuation of Anthropic when they go public is like trillions of dollars. So, you have to say, that sounds weird, like it's really worth more than all the oil companies. Yes, probably. Um, is it worth more than Microsoft? I don't know. But at the end of the day, the cost of training these models is astronomical. And I always knew that if someone gives Anthropic, if a venture capitalist or even an investment bank gives Anthropic 50 billion, 100 billion, 250 billion, dollars at some point, those $250 billion has to come back as a investment. And if you took $250 billion and put it in a long-term CDM, sorry, CD, um, or a bond or something like that, you're going to get back a return of so much percent. Um, that money has to be brought back from people like Anthropic at more than what they would invest in a long-term bond, for example, or something like a financial bond. So, which does nothing but make money. And so, uh, either it's a huge gamble and someone's going to lose billions, or they believe that they can make a profit. If they can make a profit, how can they make a profit? It isn't going to be the monthly subscription. There's just not enough money in it. Even if every single developer in the United States signed up to Claude, which actually is possible and doable, even if they did, I still don't see that it's going to make enough money to justify the investment. And therefore, the tokens have got to be the way forward. And also, the trend is towards more tools um, that are using the API side of things for Claude, and I think that, I think that's the cost. So for me, if you are in Mexico, if you're in Brazil, if you're in any country where your currency is not as buoyant as the US dollar or the UK pound or euros in Germany, then I think the LLMs got to be worth the investment. Local LLMs have got to be a way of saving some money. So that's what I'm trying to show you today. I'm not saying it's going to be as good as anything else. I'm just saying it's not an option. This person says, well, for me, I'm trying my best to learn IT support. Once I learn that, then I'll try to learn cybersecurity and software web development. Yes, great. And actually, LLMs are featuring very heavily in cybersecurity analysis and IT support. You can now have local LLMs that will answer most of the questions reasonably accurately. What you need to do is then use your judgment. Is that answer a good answer? Because LLMs are predictive. They're not intelligent. They look intelligent, but they're not. What they're doing is they are predicting the right answer based on probability. So if I say, if you're happy and you know it, your brain says the next thing the word I'm probably going to say is clap, and then the next word after that is your, and then hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You can't hear it because of my noise cancellation. That's how LLMs work. They are predicting what is the most likely word after a prediction of words that it's found. Now, when it applies to code, it's the same thing. It looks at the question that's been asked and it predicts what are the most likely answers. And it's got so many parameters that it actually can look very effective. Like the class I showed you, where you say to Kai, hey, create a class. And let me just make a point, by the way. I'm just going to run Rad Studio. I don't know whether that's will work with my broadcast happening, but if I'm running Rad Studio on this Windows machine, you can connect Kai back across the network. I showed you a virtual machine that's running on the same Mac, but I can connect across the network and Kai will work cross network perfectly well. So, and again, it's all completely for free. So why pay more than you need to? I think Kai is one of the best things we've done for a while. And I think that LLMs, in terms of chat windows and stuff like that. Yeah, Alexander says running AI is management and not programming. Yeah, I mean, isn't that true though? Or of having people that work for you as coders. If you are a senior developer, then you tend to have. I've been a senior developer. I've been a development manager, then you tend to have a bunch of people that are working for you. I'm not sure if I can show this on screen, but let me just see if it will work in a way that can show chat. Yeah, I can. I think I can show this. So I'm just going to share my screen again for a second, just to show you something. The screen. Let's choose this one. So let's just share my screen for a second. Now this is actually on my Windows PC, and if I put in the URL for the Mac and say test the connection, that's immediate. That's across my network. Okay, and I can pick the model. Well, I'm going to pick that one. Okay, and say save, and it will work. Now, if I go and open a VCL application, my ID is probably going to go over onto my other monitor because of the way I've got it set up, which it has. View, let's make it save desktop here so it doesn't jump around too much. So normally I broadcast, the screen that you're seeing is not my normal screen, okay? But I think if I say view Kai chat, I can dock it down here like so, move this across, yes, and then I can run my Kai chat. Simple as that, and it will work. You know, file, new local session, and it says, okay, what am I going to do? Let's say, I'm just going to do it in here for a second. Let's say, I'm Kai. What can I help you with? You build. I actually wanted them to say something slightly different, but we settled on that. I wanted it to say, I'm Kai, here to help, because I think that's the important thing to remember is Kai is here to help. But if I say, show me how to create a create for a variable suitable time. I mean, it's this very stupid Mickey Mouse question, but if I say in kind of chat, do that, and then now it's going to go off. We're going to talk across to my Mac, which is here. You can see the keyboard, you can't see the screen. And it'll take a little while to do it because, as we've noticed, my Mac is running a little bit slowly with all the multiple things that are happening. But it will come back and it will actually create a variable. Probably should have used a smaller model. I think I've used a massive model for the sake of it. And perhaps lesson to learn here is when I'm doing a live webinar, I should probably not have a huge model. Frank says the difference between vibe coding and a Delphi developer is that we don't expect to get finished out from a 3-line prompt. No, of course not. No, Frank, you know I'm just showing a very small demo. When I have you on, we're going to talk a bit more about how to set up a practical AI pipeline, which is what you have. Frank runs a business writing software. He's got a specific product, and Frank does 90% of what he does is using AI now. He's told me this before. Grade 1280 says they were heavily subsidizing costs and users were constantly using agents to write all the code. So the rug pull was inevitable, yes. Approve the MCP call, yes. I'm going to just say yes to all, so I'm going to let it do its thing whilst we're talking. Yeah, I agree. I think they are, come on, it's not that difficult. Yes to all. Come on. Let me check if there's no, there aren't any existing files in here, so let's do that. Instead, watch the AI with eagle eyes, because just as you would watch our child in the playground. Yes, well, or a junior who you think you don't trust. You know, I mean, if you've got someone where you know they've just learnt to code, then you know it's one of those things where until you know to trust them, you're going to keep watching to see what they get up to. You know, so it's one of those things. Create a date time demo. Oops. If I do approve. And it's gone and created a class to do it. And so, as you can see there, show date time variables. I mean, it's a very Mickey Mouse answer, but you get the general gist of it. I should have just told it to do the mode where you don't have to keep answering questions. There it is. Take that. I mean, it's dumb, but yeah, it also shows you how to do to return it as a string, all the rest of it. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I get it. I should have asked a better question. I asked a really stupid question. But it's created a unit that does it. Let me do a console demo. Yeah, go on then. Okay, if you want to. Yeah, stupid thing. Yes, Sylvian says yes. LLMs predict what is the most probable, but no one can prove that's not how our brain works. Well, actually, you hit the nail on the head there. Um, the Turing test was my hero, Alan Turing, um, who said that if you can't tell the difference between a human and a computer attached to a keyboard, then you can really say that the computer is intelligent. And likewise, if the LLM can predict the right set of words to follow one after another, and we can't tell the difference between how we do it and how the LLM has done it as well, if the results are the same, then does it really matter how it's working and how our brain is working? Maybe that is how we work, how our neurons work. Yeah, I agree. There's I just wanted to show you working that it works over the network, but as you can see, it's from my stupid question, it's produced a Pascal program or Delphi program. Is a console app where it has gone off and it produces a test as well, or, example of how it does it, and then it tells me exactly what it's done and why it's done it. All I really wanted you to know is that Kai can work across my network because this is my Windows PC, and there's proof it's my Windows PC, and it's working across the network. Good stuff. Do you know if Kai will work properly with code? Okay. Well, actually, that's a good question. So I'm going to stop sharing a moment because that's a very valid question. So what happened was when we released Kai. Um, Anthropic at the same time just happened to make a change to the way that Claude works, the Claude command works. And when you install Kai, what it does is have a set of tools that it will install to enable the interactions. And I have chased people up about this because I've got a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm using Claude and it's not working." Today is really about talking about local LLMs, but there is an issue with Claude, and we're aware of it. I'm told that they believe they may have a solution for it. It wasn't something we were expecting. We do deliver Kai via Get It. Now, if I just look at my email for a second. I don't see an answer to that at the moment. If I had an answer, I would give it to you now. All I can say is that it is something that we're really concerned about and that we are focused on fixing. So I'll come back to you on that, Stephen. Stephen, I recognise you and I recognise your name. So we, of course, want to work with Claude. We do advertise which AIs it works with. It works with quite a lot of different AIs and local models as well. I think that Claude's Anthropic model is probably everybody says Claude is the best, and based on I have a Claude account myself, by the way, and I agree that Claude is really probably right now is kicking butt. It's really doing much better than some of the other models, but it's not the only one that's available. Gemini is very good as well. And I found that Gemini has some good answers. Today, this webinar is about local models and picking the right local model. If you use LLM Fit, then you'll get it. Samir says, I hate the confusion between my comments as a developer and AI generated comments. Sometimes I can't tell who wrote what. Actually, Samir, you can tell the AI to annotate its comments with its name. So give that as an instruction to the AI and say, whenever you make any comments in the code, please annotate it with AI or something like that, and it will add that in. It's actually weird. You know, the fault is not yours and it's not their AI's. It's really down to ask better questions, you'll get better answers. I'm not saying you're asking bad questions, but what I'm saying is if you don't like it doing something, tell it, and the AI will later know that it should annotate its comments with its name or with some, you know, tell it whatever you want to say. Say AI generated at the start of every comment, and it will do that. I hate that it does do things so cleverly, but that's what AI will do for you. So you can say to it when you make a comment, make sure that you annotate it. Um, Yeah, Tia says, thanks for this webinar. The introduction of Kai was a necessity to not fall behind. The information given today is pure gold. Thank you. I thought it was important. And by the way, this is not the last time we're going to talk about AI. I don't want every webinar I do to be about AI because we'll be here forever otherwise. Um, but I thought that it was important to start off with local LLMs because for a lot of people, the sticking point was the cost of things. We can't make Kai free, and it's a contractual thing as much as anything else. That the guys that work on it, it's well known that Roman Casabam and his two sons, Elias and Leon, um, work on this. They do not work on Rad Studio. They do not work on the runtime. They do not work on the compiler. They do not work on LSP. They are completely independent. They're not the only ones working on Kai. I want to emphasize that they are the primary ones that work on Kai, but they're not the only ones. We do have other team members that are involved, but we wanted to make sure that the Kai was not introduced and it took away from the resources of Rad Studio. Now, getting it ready required significant resources internally because we had to introduce the pipelines, we had to make like our graphics team had to produce the icon for Kai and that you see in my desktop there when I shared my desktop. So you know, we only have so many graphics designers, and then, by the way, they use AI it's because it's quicker. But there were some resources to make Kai get to the point where you could install it from Get It and all of that. But actually, all of the work, the donkey work on it, is not by people who normally work on Rad Studio. So it's very important to understand that Kai is not taking away from resources like fixing issues with the LSP, which is our primary thought process at the moment. Is we want to make LSP as good as it can be, and it's been suboptimal. That's a polite way of saying it isn't working as good as it could do. I just realized as well that on my Mac, I've been probably sharing, I've probably been having my iPhone doing stuff at the same time. That's probably why it's slowed down, isn't it? Yeah, that'll be why. So say to it, let's not do that anymore. iPhone was used from this Mac. Yes. Okay. All right. So that probably helped. Yes, but I thought, you know, I just want you to know, you know, the different groups of people. We have teams that work only on the compiler or the primary kind of architecture of compilers, plural. There are some people that work on VCL and FireMonkey, and actually they're not always crossover. There are project managers that are dedicated just to C++ Builder, project managers that are dedicated to Delphi, and then overall project managers that are in charge of kind of all of it. We compartmentalize the teams, and so sometimes people say, "Well, I think it's disgusting that you're doing this feature and you're not looking at you know LSP." that's not how it works. They're not exclusive. Working on this doesn't mean that this particular piece of work is not happening. So, it's important to understand how we break up the workload. Um, could we do better in some areas? Absolutely. And I think as well that when people um, uh, also say things like, well, uh, I don't think you should be so chatty in the webinars. Look, these webinars are not intended to be a lecture. If you don't like listening to me, and I absolutely 100% understand that, um, go to the replay and watch the replay, and actually you'll be able to get the sections. You see, if you scroll across, you'll see the sections that people replay and things like that as well. Pick up on the bits that you are interested in, and you can watch it on 2.5 times speed, scroll through everything I say. Generally, about 10 minutes in is where I start talking about the subject of the day. It's quite obvious where we are. So I get it. For some people, they're like, God, it drives me crazy. I wish he wouldn't stop talking. Other people are the opposite. They actually say that, that they would rather have a human face to Embarcadero. I am a very public part of a team of hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't think it's thousands, but I know it's hundreds. And um, I have the easiest part because all I have to do is present other people's work and make it look good. I don't work on Rad Studio fixing bugs. I'm not in charge of deadlines and things like that. My job in that respect is actually not at all stressful. And the way that I do the webinars is the way I do them. And we do some webinars and things like that. And I'm just quieting down one of my colleagues there. The way that I do the webinars is particular style, and it's not for everybody, but the content's in there, and you can scroll to it and get to it. Eric was saying restart. No, I'm not going to do that. I built my add-on to color the comments. Actually, Samir, you can go in and change the comments as well. Samir is a very good developer. He's actually created some stuff that's in there. People made AI to help them code and now saying coding with AI is cheating. I don't understand. Well, I'm not so sure that's actually true. I think that um, they're not necessarily the same people. The people that create AI to help them code, they're all for it. The people that say that AI is cheating, I don't think there's such a thing as cheating. I think that's like saying, using a spelling corrector is cheating. Yeah, maybe you should learn to spell in the first place, and you wouldn't need a spelling corrector. But when I'm typing stuff out, I sometimes make typos. I can touch type, and I type very fast. I get a lot of emails. I get hundreds of emails a week from people, and I invite them to email me, and I put my email address on the screen like it is now, and invite you to email me, and I will answer you. Right now, I'm experiencing a high demand of emails, so it takes me a little bit longer. But usually, when things are quieter, I respond within minutes, usually within hours, and generally the same day or the next day. If I'm awake, I'm available. Um, I live on my own, apart from my dog, who is asleep on the floor. You can't see him, but he's down there, bless him. He's asleep at the moment, but it's just me and the dog, and I love Delphi, and I'll respond. I'm not always going to be like that. You never know. I might take up skiing or something, but generally, what you see is what you get. I am a Delphi developer from the very first day Delphi came out. I like C++ as well. It's not my main language, but if you see behind me on the shelf, about that way, you can see, I think it will just about focus on it, but I've got C++ books and stuff like that, and a lot of Delphi stuff from every person. I've just written a foreword for The Delphi Way, which is a great book. Google that and go to delphi-books.com and look on there. The Delphi Way is a book like that thick, and I wrote the foreword for it the other day because he's doing the second edition. Someone said the text is a bit small, but if you want to talk about these webinars and tell me you hate something about it, or you love something about it, or you've just got a suggestion, could you do a webinar on this topic? I'll do it. That's what I'm here for. I'm a like I say, Delphi guy from day one, but I'm here for it. Einstein, your stream is a good help for use, Kai, with little artificial intelligence. Einstein's French, so IA is more common outside of the English-speaking world. Spanish and Portuguese both say IA, Inteligencia Artificial, is more common than artificial intelligence in English. So AI, IA, same thing. So what Einstein's saying is your stream is a good help for use with Kai, with a small artificial intelligence, someone who is not inspired by artificial intelligence, but using with the parsimony in a very good way. So what he's saying is he thinks it's a good webinar for people who want to try out AI with some reluctance and not buy into the whole big business of AI, which is good. Sorry, Jay is now getting cross to me and says, I actually meant coding. Sorry, Jay, I'm not trying to insult you by misquoting what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So people say, and now saying coding with AI is cheating. I actually don't agree that coding with AI is cheating. I think that if they're saying that, then it's double standards, isn't it? I think that coding with AI is probably a sensible thing to do. It's like a spell checker, like a grammar checker. I'm a professional writer. I'm a professional editor. I've edited over 2,800 articles, including and written many. There are books behind me on my shelf that I have either edited, given the foreword to, or appeared in periodicals. Pioneering Simplicity, I helped Marco with some technical editing on that. This is still the best book about Pascal history available. You should definitely get it. Marco G. But it's a great book, Pioneering Simplicity. It's all about the history of Pascal and Delphi and why it is what it is. But there's loads of good books out there. You can, whoops, knock something off my shelf. And despite the fact I'm good at English, English as in the written English, the grammar checker picks up on my grammar sometimes, and spell checker sometimes notices a typo I've made, because as I'm typing away, I make mistakes because my brain can't keep up with my fingers can't keep up with my brain, and it is what it is. Stuart says, I think of AI as just another developer tool, like an IDE framework, BCL, exactly. I think you're right. I think that some people, as I said before, there are some MVPs I've got great respect for. They're far better coders than me. They are extremely competent, and when they talk about certain subjects, I absolutely believe they are probably the world experts in the topic that they're talking about. But they also say they will never use AI over their dead bodies. I don't want to call them out because for them to say that publicly. I believe that when they've said that, it might have been in a private MVP forum, but I'm sure they would say it publicly because they're the kind of characters that would not have a problem saying stuff publicly, but they haven't, as far as I'm aware. So I'm not gonna say who they are until they're ready to say that point of view, because usually what happens is if you say something like that, you get a million people come and jump on you and tell you why you're wrong, and they'll be the kind of people that will argue back. But I don't want to put them in that position unless they're ready to do that. But yeah, it's AI is just another developer tool. If you use it carefully, it can transform how you develop software. Frank Lauter, who you've seen in the comments, absolutely 100% believes that. Frank is a great friend of mine. I get on very well with him. And in fact, I've just seen another MVP, an author as well, says, "Right now I'm torn between advancing my project and trying new tools. I know I will kick myself if it turns out that one of the new items like Kiro, which is another uh, coding assistant, makes me more productive." Well, I think the MVP I was talking about is just commenting saying that they missed the web stream. Yeah, it is what it is. Believe me, that MVP is going to have their say. I know them well, and I'm sure they'll have something to say. They're against AI. They've got some very good arguments for it. I think if you use AI properly, and properly it means carefully and with skepticism about it being the answer to your dreams, because it isn't. But Frank Lauter would be an example of someone who uses AI very heavily. I also know that um, Holger Flick is also another good friend of mine, and Richard Hatherall. Both of those use AI quite extensively and carefully, with caution and with skepticism at the right time. But they believe that AI enhances their capabilities. So, I mean, I'm not doing enough development day in, day out on big projects that I could definitively give you an answer. I understand about AI in depth. I've done some training on it. I also used it. I use AI in my job, um, for various things. Frank is saying that there's another MVP who uses AI a lot. Yeah, Olaf Moynihan as well. That's a good point. Frank Lauter. Olaf Moynihan is a very good MVP. He's based in, I think he's moved to Sweden now, but he's technically based in Germany still. He describes himself as a German MVP, but I guess he's like a kind of foreign correspondent. But he is actually the local coordinator of the German MVPs. But Olaf uses Augment Code, I believe, is the tool that he uses, and he swears by it as well. He says that it's transformed the way he develops software. So you can say you hate AI, you can say you're okay with AI. These are people. Olaf is a very well respected from a technical point of view, um, and Olaf and Frank both of them are. They know what they're talking about when it comes to software development, and they say AI makes a big difference to them. I'm not going to argue with them. I use AI for research, and by saying them, you go. Okay. I'm not going to call that Terry. I'm not going to show that comment on the stream, but yeah, yeah, I think you're right. It can be what it is. Um, I use AI to do research. I didn't use AI to research this particular topic because I already know this topic, about local LLMs. I'm using them. Um, the performance you've seen is slower than normal. Normally, I don't have all this stuff going on, all the broadcast, remote desktop into the Mac. By the way, the Mac is running like full screen. What do you call it? Spotify. It's running a full screen virtual machine with Windows 11 and RAD Studio loaded into it with maximum RAM. And it's running LM Studio, and it's also running Olama at the same time, and it is also running some other heavy duty stuff, and yet you saw the performance was acceptable. Now, normally when I use it, because I have been using it to test Kai, for example, and not cost myself anything, normally performance is much faster, and it's certainly acceptable. If you've got a powerful Mac, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford a Mac, then Mac Pro, Mac Pro Max I've got an M5 Pro chip. If you've got an M5 Max chip, as Holger Flick does, you're cooking on gas. The more RAM you have in your Mac as well, the faster it goes. But you saw LLM Fit, that will help you pick a model that will work for you. Um, ah, yes, Daypug. I was there last year. It's a very, very fantastic user group. In April, I attended a workshop by Olaf Monien at Daypug in Denmark. The best 2 days I spent on education in a lot of years. You know, the Danish user group annual meeting is probably one of the best you can go to. It is 2 days with only one person doing everything. And I did that last year. I went to Denmark, and for 2.5 days, I think it is. First of all, you get to eat and hang out with a bunch of Delphi people, and it's great. Um, it's a beautiful location. It's breathtakingly beautiful. The hotel they had, I don't know if they still use the same hotel this year, but hotel last year, it was the Danish user group. Boy, it was like going to a Michelin star restaurant. The food was of the best quality you ever have. Each course came with wine and stuff like that, and it's hardcore Delphi for 2.5 days. It's great, absolutely amazing. So I'm glad that Olaf did it. Olaf is, like I say, he's a very well-respected developer. And Doug's here from Canada again. Hello, Doug. Uh, hope you're doing well, my friend. Okay, well, I've kind of run out of steam. I've shown you everything I can show you. I suggest try an LLM Fit, run it yourself, download it, and see if you have any luck with LM Studio or Olama. They both work with Kai, but why not just have your local AI? Why pay someone if you can do it for free? And a couple of people saying thanks, in a very helpful session. Good, hopefully. And Ali says, ironically, because he's written some AI tools, in my opinion, you should not use AI to replace your skill, but to multiply your speed accuracy and creative reach. Yes, it's a tool. It's like having an assistant come and help you do your job. It's very helpful. And in fact, you can have multiple AIs doing multiple things. I personally, one thing that I know some people do is they use AI to filter their email and then auto respond to the email. I do not do that, and I will never do that unless I get to the point where I have 100,000 emails or whatever, and I can't cope. Whenever you email me, that reply is not from some assistant. It's not AI. It's not a human doing it on my behalf. It is me. When you get a reply to the email from me, when you email me, it is me emailing you. Now, if you've got a problem with Microsoft, or you have a suggestion for Microsoft, who can you email at Microsoft? Don't try Bill Gates at Microsoft.com, because they ain't going to go anywhere. And even people like Scott Hanselman, who's very good, by the way. I'm not criticizing him. He's just too busy. Now they have billions of users, so we do have an advantage in numbers there. But you will, if you want to put your point across about something, you can email me and I will respond. I don't always, if it's a technical question, it's not. I'm not there for support. You should contact the support people in the normal way. But if you've got a suggestion, or there's something you think we're doing wrong, or there's something you think we're doing right and you don't want it to go away, let me know. If you just want to talk about Delphi, let me know. If you've got an idea for something cool, or you've done a project that is awesome and you think that we should know about it, and maybe you want Embarcadero to embrace it and have it in Red Studio or something, let me know. Kai came about through exactly that kind of situation where people show me demos of what they're doing, and someone showed me Kai, and I pass the right projects on to product development, and that's how it came about. Now, if you've got a good idea, maybe that could happen to you as well. If you've got a knockout idea where you go, this will benefit the community, I wonder if Embarcadero would be interested in that. run it by me. And if it's in confidence, tell me it's confidential. I won't break your confidence. I won't reveal it to other people. I will show it to other people in the company, obviously. Otherwise, there's no point, is there? But if you don't want me to show it on webinars or something, you just want to keep it to ourselves and say, I'd be interested to know if Embarcadero want to talk about this, then email me. I know all the right people at all the levels possible in the company. So, you know, um, email me and we'll go from there. Now, I get a lot of ideas sent to me, and I know that some of those ideas people believe are the best thing they've ever done. But unfortunately, it's not uncommon for me to get 4 or 5 ideas a month that are identical to each other. Because unfortunately, a good idea is a good idea, but it also might be that someone else had that good idea as well. Sorry. Um, it is what it is. But I'm there. Uh, you can reach me directly, and I don't think you can say that from almost any other tech company around. Anyway, I think that's it for now. Thank you for all of you that have joined me. And thanks to those saying like Thomas and all the rest of it. Thanks. That was a great session. Good. I hope so. Don't forget, I am back next week with a very interesting session, which is how to comply with the new age restriction requirements. Texas had a law that was immediately put on hold by some legal lawyer challenged it in court, and the court came back and said, no, actually, it can go ahead. So you do have to comply with this law, even if you don't live in Texas. If your users potentially use your app in Texas, then you have to comply with new age restriction requirements. iOS and Android have SDKs to do with that. I'm going to show you how to run those. I'll show you how to create a mobile app and then how to comply with those age restrictions. It also applies to websites and it also applies to desktop apps as well. So how to comply with them, we'll see. I'm not so sure about the desktop apps. I've actually got to look that up myself because I don't know. But by the time we do the webinar, I'll have the answers. But that's what we've got. And then VCell versus FireMonkey. And then inside the black box with Jim McKeith, hopefully, how to teach your AI to understand your code base. So actually read your code and then get better at your own code. That's what we've got coming up. I'll see you all next week.